one and all, Jasper here, and I got another video game story to tell ya with no original footage because I'm not a game YouTuber. Made sure to purge that shit from my library, so it never actually happened. But also, this was a game of Crusader Kings 2, which has the visual stimulation of watching paint dry. So good old Sammy will make this look good for you all. Thanks, Sam. I can always count on you. With that squared away, a little bit of a rundown for those of you who don't know what Crusader Kings is. Pretty much a medieval politics simulator. Normally, you pick a character to take control, from the highest of kings to the lowest of nobility, and from there, play the game of politics. Wage religious wars, marry someone for a political alliance, take a loan from the Jews, and then expel them from your lands. Wish I could do that with my real life loans. As fun as this game is though, I love the mod that transforms Europe, parts of Africa and Asia, into Westeros and Essos with a pinch of Southerros as well. In this game, I decided to play as a pirate, starting in the Stepstones named Assales Rimitus. My own creation, and the best way I can describe him is, imagine if Jaime Lannister had a baby with Ramsay Bolton, who dyes his hair purple. A cruel, vicious man who loves to torture and maim, but has the skills to back it up as well. Also, he is sexy as fuck. I start off in Torturer's Deep because, of course, Assales would call this place home and look to my neighbors to expand, only to realize that is impossible. You see, all the pirates on these islands are exactly as strong as me, with only one noticeable exception, Salladhor Saan. He isn't just as strong as me, no. He is 4 times stronger than me. Attacking any of these guys would prove disastrous. Even if I was to win the battle, the losses I would take would make it impossible to siege their castles, which is kinda bullshit, but I get why it works like that in this game. So time for plan B, raid and pillage. This will allow me to amass wealth to upgrade my castle, build my forces, and launch a full-scale invasion to expand my territory. Now, you would think I can only attack small villages and towns to gain my wealth, right? Fuck no, we're beelining it to Casterly Rock, making stops at Sunspear, the Arbor, and Old Town because they got some nice loot just waiting to get snapped. Now, you might be wondering how I am able to raid these lands despite those holdings outnumbering me as much as 10 to 1. Well, you see, it's simple. The AI in this game is kinda retarded. When you raise an army at the start, half of their morale is just not there, which is very important because if your army has low morale, it's possible that an army that you would normally beat quite handily will achieve victory. Here's the thing, due to the vast numerical difference, even with that morale penalty, they would still raffle stomp my ass. Yet the AI refuses to raise the army on the land I am raiding. They can still raise armies where I'm not, but so long as I am on their capital, a good chunk of their army is just useless. Still, I am so weak at this point that I still have to run away whenever they amass that army and come to attack me. But this still gives me some extra time to do a little more pillaging, thus increasing my income. And now we are at Casterly Rock. Ooh, and a small party event has come up. Lansa Lannister wants to fight me? Salos is juiced up to the gills with traits that boost his combat abilities to ludicrous degrees. Literally no one has a higher combat trait. Jaime Lannister, Gregor Clegane, I could take them both on. So of course I'm going to accept and... What do you mean he chopped my arm off and took me prisoner? Fuck that shit. Reload, a save. This time we're gonna kick his ass. There we go. That's better. Returning home with our plunder, we now begin to upgrade our island, building farms, barracks, ships, whatever I can in order to increase my power and influence. I will say, that brief brush with death made me realize that I need to get an heir. CK2 is a fickle creature. You never know when you'll get slapped with smallpox, cancer, swine flu, and just fucking die out of nowhere. Small problem with creating a kid, though. You gotta get married, and the problem with marriage is... I'm a pirate and nobody likes me, not even other pirates, and the willing options to be my wife are not very appealing in a political or genetic sense, so I'll have to find less willing participants. As much as I would like to tear down the walls of Pike and abduct Yara, or burn the halls of Tarth and show Brienne what a real man looks like, I don't have the army. So I need to find strong women with low defenses, and you know the best spot for that? Beyond the Wall. Plenty of wild women whose entire culture is that if you see a girl you like, you snatch her. So really, I'm just trying out different cultures. I burn a few huts, capture half a dozen women to be my wife, and leave before Mance Raider can respond with an attack. The casualties we took were sizable, since now we had to actually attack fortified huts instead of pillaging farms, but still, I got laid, so it's a sacrifice I was more than willing to make. Now home once again, I spend the next few years continuing to pillage and raid and build up my power, taking any gold I can find, abducting people so that way when I land in Slaver's Bay, I can sell them, then pillage the lands before I leave, maybe abduct 1 or 2 slavers to sell them into slavery. After all, I do believe in equality. Everyone should have the opportunity to be enslaved by me. My wealth grew to unimaginable heights. I made the Lannisters look like a bunch of poor fellows. I started off with 1,000 pirates under my command, and it had now grown to 2,500. I could reliably attack my neighbors, or at least some of them. The islands to my south were ripe for the picking. I could launch a surprise raid, decimate them, and then launch a proper attack to take control, annexing the current leader and holding it for myself, or putting someone I like in charge. However, north was a different story. Remember Salladhor Saan? Well, he had all of those islands. I was hoping he would be busy helping Stannis, but it looks like he was killed off early in the War of the Five Kings, slain by Randall Tarley, funny enough. Not just him either. Robb Stark was also dead, killed in single combat by Victarion Greyjoy. Now the Lannisters were at war with Balon and his lot for control of the Iron Islands and North. What a fun, interesting time we live in. Enough about the continent-spanning war. Let's get back to my little islands. While I did close the gap a bit between me and Salladhor, he still had a clear advantage, outnumbering me 3-1. If I bide my time, I could increase my numbers and close the gap, but with no more neighbors that Salladhor could swallow, aside from me, I knew my time was limited. So I launched a preemptive strike. His capital was too heavily fortified for me to attack, but his vassals were not so lucky. Getting a raiding party together, I attacked Bloodstone. It was the furthest from the capital, meaning it would take longer for him to respond, but more importantly, behind the walls of Bloodstone was a man named Gleno Vonatus, however you pronounce that, who had a Valyrian steel sword called Poison, and I had every intention of getting it. But sieges take time, and sadly Salladhor was quick to act. While my siege limited him in raising his full power, he still had what he believed to be enough men to crush me. Another reason why I didn't siege his capital. If I kept him from raising most of his army, he would just be in a stalemate with nothing productive taking place. He needed to attack me or else I would raise his land, and I needed him to attack me to put the odds in my favor. He had to cross the ocean and land his troops while I held the terrain advantage. It would make or break here. And when he landed on the island and the battle began, spears were shaken, shields were splintered. It was a sore day, a red day as the sun rose. But victory was ours. With his army shattered, I chased them down, butchering every single man. Thousands dead and floating in the ocean. I went back to Bloodstone, sacked the castle, and took the Valyrian steel sword, Poison, for myself. Though I felt it needed a new name. I called it Infamous. And why, you may ask? Well, it's quite simple.
Fortune favors the infamous.
With Salladhor's army smashed, I was able to siege his capital, taking it and claiming all the islands of the Stepstones. I was now king of the Stepstones. My army was now 10,000 strong. No place was safe for me. In an instant, I could land, pillage a castle, and be gone before you could react. Powerful noble families were now at risk, taking their loved ones and holding them for ransom. If they could not afford them, I'm sure the slavers could pay a pretty penny for them. Nothing could stop me now, as I gather my fleet and set sail for the Summer Islands to pillage, conquer, and enslave every...
You've got mail.
A message from the Iron Throne. King Joffrey the Just declares an anti-slave war on me, and all of his vassals have sided with him. Well, fuck me. First off, I have no idea how Joffrey got the Just nickname. That's more ludicrous than that time Varys joined the Kingsguard in a playthrough I had. Second, what the fuck am I going to do? 200,000 soldiers are about to sail down and non-consensually raw dog my islands. Wow, is this what it feels like? Is this what I've been doing to people? I deserve to be in jail. You know, I could just surrender, I'm already stupid rich, so I don't need to keep selling people into slavery, and I would like to focus on expanding in the south to rival the free cities and bit by bit take over Essos. But I'd have to give up my slave camps, and that means losing my 10% discount to construction. Turns out mortar isn't the best building material. It's blood and human life. Learned that from the pyramids. You know what, slaves? You built my kingdom. And so for you all, I will fight and kill to make sure you all stay slaves. You're welcome. Now, you might wonder, how the fuck am I going to fight an army roughly 20 times larger than my own? Well, it isn't going to be easy, but I have a plan. You see, Joffrey isn't attacking me with one big-ass army, but several smaller big-ass armies that each by themselves would crush me in a fair fight. Luckily, this is war, and you're a dumbass if you take fair fights. They will try to land on my islands, but since I own the land, I have the advantage of being able to dock and take the high ground before they even make it. They take a penalty because they've been sailing around, and with all these bonuses and their debuffs, I can reliably decimate the enemy. So Assales and his army gets to work. Sailing around the islands and intercepting enemies right before they land. Always outnumbered but never outmatched, the casualties began to stack. Armies of 20,000 or more would land and be bested and slaughtered to every single one so they could never return. Yet it paled in comparison to my own personal great battle. My own Battle of Cannae, if you allow me to get a little historical. 20,000 Knights of the Vale attacked us and were being destroyed, only to be reinforced by 10,000 Ironborn and later 30,000 Reachmen and finally 20,000 Northmen. Had they attacked us all at once, it would have been over. But since they simply couldn't cause AI be dumb, my army, which had been able to mass recruit the locals to keep it at 10,000 strong, was ready for them. On this day, 10,000 pirates faced against a total of 80,000 knights from Westeros, and were smashed. Only a few thousand actually lost their lives during the battle. The real slaughter came after as they were chased down. So many butchered. The very ocean that surrounded my islands turned to blood. Moses, turning the Nile, pales in comparison to what I have done. In this one single battle, I effectively wiped out half of his military population. None can stop me. No one can stop Assalos Rimitus, the king of the pirates.
Hey, boss. Well, you were busy fighting all those guys. 100,000 men just landed on your capital and are currently sieging it.
The way wars work in CK2, as far as who wins and loses, is simple. When a war starts, both parties start at 0% war score. Winning battles increases it, and so does taking land, while the opposite lowers it. If you reach 100%, you win. Here's the issue though. The game caps battle winnings at 70%, which means no matter how many more battles I win, the counter will not go any higher, meaning I need to take land to get that remaining 30%. Thing is, my armies have been so busy fighting non-stop, we don't have the option to take any land from the enemy, as doing so would be surrendering my home and pretty much the war. Or, so I thought, because you see, there is one thing about the AI I keep overestimating. Its intelligence. AI does not like attacking castles. They will almost always choose to starve out a castle since it results in far less casualties, attacking only if the castle they are besieging has recently been fucked up. My castle has never been fucked up, and while a far cry away from the likes of Storm's End or the Eyrie, it was still a bitch and a half to storm, so the AI decided to starve them out. Here's the issue though. The island does not have enough resources to support such a large army. So guess what that means? They all starved, which let my army slide on in and mop them up. And by the grace of the Seven... Oh, wait, I'm a Tyroshi pirate. I don't worship the Seven. What do I worship? Gold? Then thank Thebris I found Joffrey, himself among them all. Took him captive, which allowed me to declare victory and win the war. Finally, I think this had been going on for 3 years now. I desperately wanted to put the little shit through some torture that would make the Boltons blush. But this war had already been going on for way too damn long, and I wanted to create an empire. So Now, after defeating the most powerful empire in the world, Assales could now set his sights on expanding and creating a dynasty that would last for centuries.
Oh, I caught the flu.
Apparently, the only way Assales can die is by embarrassing methods. Luckily this time, though, I had a son take over. Enzo Rimitus. Though not crafted by hand from an almighty power like his father, he did inherit a few traits to make him a cut above the rest. A skilled tactician, a fighter who wasn't despised by the world because he wasn't a psychopathic torturer. Yet. Either way, armies were mustered and an invasion of the Summer Islands was about to be enacted. None could stop our glorious conquest. Oh,
You
what
got
does this
mail.
letter say? Joffrey has launched his second anti-slavery war.
Motherfuck!
Another anti-slave war took place, but this went much better. Joffrey hadn't really recovered at all from the war, and many of his bannermen were not too keen on the second war. I was able to turn my entire fleet around and besiege King's Landing, burning it to the ground, taking his entire family as prisoners, selling almost all of them into slavery, capturing Joffrey later the exact same way as last time, lopping off every appendage he had except his head, turning him into the first ever Potato King, forcing him to accept peace terms and leaving him in the ruins of King's Landing with all of his bannermen seeming to like the idea of independence. Good luck with that, Joffrey. Finally able to set sail, I made my colonizing ancestors proud by invading the Summer Islands, massacring and enslaving the population, educating them in our culture and beliefs, putting those who submit into power, and if there were no options, putting my own in charge. In just half a decade, I united all of the Summer Islands, and with 2 kingdoms under my control, I could now create the Empire of the Summer Sea. Every island of the southern border was soon mine, including Noth. That was a bitch and a half to keep, because every guy I put in charge of it would die. I forgot they implemented the butterfly fever effect. Luckily, I found a native who liked the idea of being a pirate and put them in charge. Got a lot easier after that. One more island kingdom was made, the Basilisk Isles, which is very similar to the Stepstones but not nearly as cool. A pirate armada was under my control. 35,000 bloodthirsty pirates heeded my call, and with the Iron Throne in turmoil, I was the dominant power of the world. None would be able to stop me. The world would be under my control in just a few generations. None could stand in my— Oh no, I fell off my horse and died! And since my eldest heir was too young, the Summer Sea Empire shattered, leaving me as a 10-year-old boy with only a single island to call home. Meaning I would have to do all of that over again. Nah, I'm good.